Hey guys, alright, first time doing voiceover. Let's see how this goes. This is Poison Molten Strike. There were many versions of it. The basic between them are quite similar. With the addition of Tincture, I'm trying the claw-based version. To be honest, I hate losing a flask slot as a Pathfinder, but it is what it is. The build is very tanky and does good damage. You could face tank most of the Uber boss's attack. I will say one thing, playing this build reminds me I hate melee builds. Offense of the build is pretty simple. The whole idea is you stack flat damage, attack speed, and number of projectiles. It can be flat fire, flat cold, flat lightning, since all damage types now can poison. To gain more projectile, Dying Sun is another option, but you would have to invest more into flask duration and reduce flask charges and things like that. Typically belt slot is pretty big for that, but since I gave up belt slot for damage, I didn't go for Dying Sun. Defense of the build is centered around the Keystone Transcendence. It makes armor applies to fire, cold, and lightning damage taken from hits instead of physical. What you have to do now is to convert all physical damage taken into fire, cold, and lightning, so you don't die to physical damage. To do that, we use Lightning Coil Body Armor for 50%, Dawnbreaker Shield for 25%, Taste of Hate for 17%, and Helmcraft for 8% for a total of 100%. To further reduce the damage taken, we do three things. First, Eternal Damnation Amulet. It reduces elemental damage taken by 35%, provided you have 70% Chaos Resist. Second, we run Ruby, Sapphire, and Topaz Flask. They give another 25 to 30% reduction to fire, cold, and lightning damage taken, depending on the amount of increased flask effect you have. Third, Petrified Blood. It turns 40% of damage taken from hits into damage over time. As long as you can recover those damages over the next 4 seconds, you don't die. This works really well with Pathfinder. All you have to do now is to stack armor. To do that, we use the Keystone Iron Reflex, which turns evasion into armor and run both Grace and Determination. Keep in mind, Transcendence only applies to damage taken from hit and not damage over time. To combat damage over time as a Pathfinder, we abuse Life Flask as usual. And on top of that, we use Claw Mastery, which gain 25 life per enemy hit. In a one-on-one boss fight, with the number of projectile and attack speed I currently have, I gain 3000 life per second, and that's on top of the Life Flask. In the mapping showcase, I was using Awakened Ancestral Call. That's 3 extra targets. With 2 extra targets on the gloves, I was hitting 6 targets each swing. It's a feel-good kind of thing, I highly recommend it. As far as the required uniques to get the build going, other than the ones mentioned earlier, is Nemus. Technically speaking, Nemus is not a must. I tried running returning projectile support early on, but you lose so much damage, it's really not ideal without Nemus. Rage and Berserk is very big in a boss fight, both offensively and defensively. The key of generating rage lies on the Tincture. 20% chance to gain 1 rage when you hit a rare or unique enemy. With the number of projectile and how many times we're hitting, it's practically permanently up when you're fighting a boss. Let's talk about some of the things I don't like about the build. There are 3 things. First is melee, the second is melee, and the third is melee. Alright, there are 2 things. Melee is one of them, while the other is losing a flask slot to the Tincture. With this setup, I'm unable to run Progenesis or Quicksilver Flask. When you're gearing up, pay attention to strength and int. You need 159 strength and 113 int, but the tree only gives 10 strength and 20 int, and this is a level 100 tree. You'll probably need to adjust accordingly prior to hitting level 100. I went pretty greedy on jam, ended up dropping dash. My current setup does not allow jumping up and down between high and low grounds, so you probably want to stick to maps that don't have a lot of high and low. I'm going to leave you guys with all the Uber boss fights. The easy ones are Cortex, Shaper, Uber Elder, Exarch, and Eater. You can face tag everything. Sirius and Maven are a different story because they stop life recovery. You really need to watch your step for those 2 fights. Other than that, the fights are easy. Well, that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching and see you next time.